Hey, my friends, how are you today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. My name is Misty Sims, and if you found me, you found my little corner of the internet that I like to call Beyond Reasonable Doubt, where we talk all things true crime, culty, and a little bit creepy. I'm so glad that you decided to click on the link to this video, and I do hope that you'll hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, and hang out with me long term because we have some fun over here, I think. And if you are a returning subscriber, you already know that I love you more than cupcakes with sprinkles, so thank you so much for coming back and for all of your support. So how are you guys doing today? It's still fall break for me, and I guess you might be surprised because you got a twofer this week. You're getting two videos. Like I said in my last one, I really wanted to do like a whole month of October. October is one of my favorite months because I love fall, I love Halloween, I love football, I love all the things, and I can't, if you can tell, I've already kind of decorated a little bit more. I just had pillows. I mean, I don't know. I'm not real creative. But yeah, so on fall break, having a great week. But while I'm relaxing, I thought I would share these videos with you. Hope you guys are having a great one. I don't know if it's fall. I don't know if everybody does fall break. I don't know if that's just a thing here in the States or is it just a thing in like the South. I have no idea, but hopefully you get a break and your kids get a break from school because it's pretty awesome. We didn't do that when I was younger, and I am jealous. I'm not going to lie, not even a little bit. So what are we talking about today? Well, if you clicked on this video, you already know, right? We're talking about a possible cult. How about that? So from what I understand, this particular group, they like to come for people online. They like to send their folks on a little chases after people and things like that. So, I mean, quite frankly, I feel like their role model might be Scientology because Scientology likes to do that too. So, I don't know. Maybe they're going to come for me when we talk about them, but we'll see. I guess that's how I'll know I've made it, huh? You know, if the wannabe Scientologists come after me. So I probably shouldn't say that. I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer before we get going here. So, I've read a lot about this group and the aftermath of some folks that have separated. So it's very emotionally charged, as is any time you escape a radical religion or anything like that. So let's please be kind in the comments. There may be some of them that read this. I hope there are. I hope we keep getting this message out there so more people might separate if it truly is dangerous. And, you know, we don't want to hurt anyone any further, but we do want to raise awareness. And yeah, this one's going to be one you're going to want to do your own research on for sure. I am just a lady on the internet with a camera, a microphone, and entirely too much to say. So do your own research. This is just things that I have read in various news articles and on the internet, as well as watched 12 hours of service time for this church. I absolutely did. For you guys, I watched 12 hours worth of this. It was a lot. But it gave me a better perspective of what I was getting into here and what I wanted to talk about. So it's just my own opinion, my own thing that I have formulated. I encourage you to do the same. But yeah, today we are talking about the Church International. If you haven't heard of it, I am about to enlighten you a little bit. So let's get right into it. All right, so the Church International is an independent Protestant church located in Warrior, Alabama. If you're familiar with Alabama, Warrior is about 30-ish minutes north of Birmingham. So probably a big commuter town if you worked in Birmingham, or just a small suburb. Not a huge place, but definitely not necessarily a small place either. It's kind of got that small town feel, but right outside of the big city. Great place to live, I would assume. Probably a great place to raise kids. I've been through it, but haven't really spent a lot of time there. May change after this. I may go down here and check things out. But there is a church down here shaking up some things. They call themselves Church International, they relate to the Protestant religion, which means that they believe they are Christian based. And it is run by Robin D. Bullock, which is the male that you see in the photo, and then Robin R. Bullock, which is the female. Now, both of these individuals are originally from Warrior, Alabama. They did leave for some amount of time, but they came back. I believe they went on, we'll get into it some more, but on tour for music and things like that. But basically, it's a couple, and they lead this church. And this church is not new. It's actually been around for about 30 years. I had never heard of it until recently. So recently, it started making the news with all these claims that they were all the property in war. So anytime something came vacant, up and grabbing up the land and the things like that. So this started to cause concern, I guess, of the citizens of Warrior. The way that I read it was that they were worried about what was going to happen to their property. Say they rented and their landlord sold, and then what did this mean? What their purposes were for the land, things like that. And then it started coming out more and more. It was on a local syndicated radio show, Rick and Bubba, if you guys know that one. I think it's syndicated nationwide now. But it was talking all about, is this group a cult? And I'm like, a cult? No, surely not. Like, not in Warrior, Alabama. I'm going to let you form your own opinion here. I will say one thing before we really dive into this. This particular group, cult or not, they are very politically motivated, okay? So we are going to talk about their political beliefs quite a bit. We are going to talk about their political activism quite a bit. I am making no opinion on politics whatsoever in this video. If you know me personally, you know I'm probably the least likely person that would ever give you political advice in any way or comment on it or know about it or anything like that. Barely even watch the news as it pertains to anything like that. So this is just me telling the story. So it's in no way pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Biden, anti-Biden. It's not this. That's not what we're here to talk about. But that will play a big part in their beliefs. So that is all I'm stating. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Okay, so this little couple here. So as you can see, Robin, the male on the right. So I'm probably gonna call him Robbie D, just because Robin gets real confusing real quick. But they are the leaders of this church, and they are claiming, he specifically claims, that he is a modern day prophet who has went into the third heaven. He's spoken directly to God, and he's been to heaven multiple times, and he's even witnessed God creating the world. So I don't have a red flag, but I would probably wave one right there, because it always makes you nervous when you see somebody that comes into the scene looking like a rock star, saying they've been to heaven and saying they got words from God directly, and all these, this, that, and the other. We've heard some things like this similar in the past. Jim Jones, just saying. So we get a little nervous when things like that start coming up, but that is what Robin claims. They've raised a lot of eyebrows because this church specifically has been just accumulating a lot of money, and then, like I said, acquiring this land. So people are scratching their heads with, like, where is this money? Where's this money coming from? Where does these people tithe? I'm a religious person, so, and a Christian-based religious person, so, you know, not hating on having a religion, not hating on having spirituality, not hating on not having one, but you tithe the church, right? Or most people do if they're the Christian faith. And so, you know, the church brings in some money for operations. You know, they do pay their staff, things like that. But this is loads of money. As in, they have spent to the tune of $6 million over the past couple of years buying up things in Warrior. So that's a lot of cash. That's a lot of cash flow right there for what started as a pretty small church, right? So, you know, so Robin, the man, he is very outspoken about folks who speak out in concern of the church, or in any way that is seen as combative or confrontational. So he would probably call myself right now, what I'm doing, a coward behind a keyboard. And I mean, the way that I see this is that I'm not, you know, call me whatever you want to call me. Call me a coward. I'm grown. I don't care. But if people are concerned that it could be like a cult-like mentality, cult-like behavior, then call it out. And then if it is not, defend yourself, right? Just say, absolutely not. That's not what we're doing here. Why don't you come attend a service? Why don't you come do this? This, that, or the other. But that's not really what's happening here. What's happening here is he's just kind of fussing and carrying on. He'll say a few things to the camera during the sermon, and then we move on and continue this behavior, right? And one of the things that kind of just really floored me was so if you attend a service online or in person, it's about 3.5 hours. It's long. It's a long service. The first hour of the service is all music, which is fine. A lot of people worship musically. They feel that, they feel moved. But it was more of the songs, and I'm not gonna play some of the songs. There's one I'm gonna play because it's not theirs and they can't claim that it's copyrighted by them anyway. But they do say that they've copyrighted their music, so I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna sing it because you're not gonna want to hear that come out of my mouth. But there is this song, and I'm gonna quote it. So I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it. So it's, "This is the time for shake and bake. Shake and bake, shake and bake. Whoring after idols, spiritual adultery is in play. This is the time for shake and bake." Is this the church of Ricky Bobby? Like, what is happening? I don't know.
It's not your tailpipe. It's a little bit of shake and then bake. Shake and bake.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. Pop culture influences music all the time, so we're gonna let him have that. But so let me give you a little bit of background about just like who these kiddos are that are up here doing all this nonsense that people are so worked up about. And then I have my own, I'm like flipping my notes. Can you see? There's pages. There's pages as I attended these sermons. So I have my own conspiracy theories related to this, because if it looks like a duck and it quacks and smells like a duck and all that kind of jazz, it might be. So I'm very concerned with some other people in Warrior, Alabama, and the protection that this place is getting. So let's just start at the beginning. The Bullocks, Robin and Robin, met in 1977 in Blount County, Alabama, and they were married about 2 years later, and they were still in their late teens at the time. And they performed a lot of music together, and they actually went on to win Duo of the Year in 2003, and that was at the Christian Country Music Awards, and at the time they were performing as the two Robins. Yeah. But it had quite a successful music career, obviously. If you win in a Christian Country Music Award, that's a pretty big deal, right? So they did win this. I have to assume, based on some of the music that I heard, that Robin the lady was doing most of the singing at this time, because Robin the man is... You form your own opinion, okay? Go watch it, form your own opinion. But come back in the comments and tell me what you think.
There's a place that I'm going, special place I've never been, where Jesus has prepared a mansion, where forever I'll live with him.
But twice Robin was touring the country and performing, and once they, I guess, kind of graduated out of the music industry, they wanted to start their own type of fellowship. So they started a group called the Youth Force Ministries, and this group would meet in Warrior in a small storefront, and they would meet on Friday and Saturday nights, and it would be a place for the local children to come gather and worship and fellowship and get together, right? This started small, but then it ended up actually with them expanding their ministry into a full-fledged church around 1996. So they rebranded this Church International at that point in time, and they moved into a larger building at 420 Thomas Street in Warrior. And then so last September, So this is pretty recent with all these big moves. Last September, in conjunction with Rosh Hashanah, and I'm probably butchering that because I'm not Jewish, but I'm trying to do my best there. They opened their doors in a former Fred's building. So if you don't know what a Fred's is, I don't know if they're global, but it's kind of what I would equate to like a, I don't want to say a discount store because you're not getting discount goods necessarily. You're paying the price that's in there, but it's a little bit more affordable, like home decor. There's some clothes in there, and then there's just regular cleaning products, a few food products, things like that. So several of them have closed. The whole chain may have closed by now for all I know, but I know most around here have. So this was a vacant building, but they moved into it. Much bigger than what they had, and it had about 100 spaces for parking located at this facility. So moving on up. See, now I'm doing the song thing, like moving on up. Anyway, they moved on up, and bigger building, great things are happening. Nobody's got an issue at this point, right? I mean, a church is a church is a church. We're glad it's growing. But this past August, it gained a lot of attention. A whole lot of attention. So the mayor, the police chief, mayor of Warrior, the police chief of Warrior, they all kicked off the church's gathering of the tribes, which, as I understand it, is a 4-day extravaganza of them gathering like revival, gathering Native Americans for like a revival within the tribes. Okay, so if you are familiar with what a church revival is, this is specifically targeted at Native Americans. So they do this thing and they go on for 4 days. And what drew the attention was they had a special guest. And their special guest was none other than Dog the Bounty Hunter. That's right, guys, Dwayne Chapman, old Dog the Bounty Hunter. So not sure what he has to do with church. No idea. Don't know Dog's beliefs. Didn't know I needed to. But there he was. So Police Chief Prater has gone on to give several interviews about the church, saying, just things like that. Even though people are targeting the church, he doesn't see an issue with it, things like that. So I want to get into a little bit of what people are complaining about with this church. So like I said, they have grown substantially over the past few years. Talk a little bit about what this church believes, what's gotten them growing and just zigging and zagging for the past few years. So the wife, she claims that she receives visions, right? So she receives these spiritual visions from God. Her most profound one was that she gives a lot of examples for was that she received one in the bathroom in Panama City Beach. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been in a bathroom in or around Club La Vila in Panama City Beach when it was still kicking, you probably had a vision too. Probably had several. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. But anyway, so she had this vision in the bathroom, and she shares these type of visions with her congregation, and like I said, Robbie D is a self-proclaimed prophet, so he shares all of his prophetic type projections and forecasts and things like that with the congregation. So some have been, like I said, very politically driven. So we're going to get into the politics of it. They have given a lot of prophecy around elections. In particular, the last election that we had, the presidential election that we had, where Joe Biden was elected president. So Robin D, he was at the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. And if you are from America or you turned on a major news station, you know that was a lot to take in that day. It was a very odd time, I think, to be an American to see that going on. Now, whether you supported it or you didn't, it was definitely something that you didn't. I don't think I ever thought I would see that, right? So, but he's up there, and I'm gonna clip in some videos. It may get taken down because it's on their little church website or whatever, but we're gonna clip it in because I can't do this justice of some of the things that when he was there on January the 6th that he was like proclaiming. Now, mind you, rewind just a little bit, and on October 30th back in 2020, he is on record in one of his sermons prophesizing that Donald Trump would be reelected. Well, we know that didn't happen. Okay, so just like kind of lockstep on that, because that's going to dovetail into some other beliefs and things that he does. So but he prophesied that Donald Trump would be the next president, or state president, and that the Democratic Party would go underground. I'm using air quotes. If you're on Spotify, you can't see me, but I don't know what underground meant, but he said that they were going to re-rise under the rule of the Antichrist. So that in itself is a lot to take in. Like I said, not a political person, don't really have a political persuasion either way. However, it is extremely harsh. I think if you believe in Christ, the Antichrist, things like that, that is a harsh comment to say about a group of people, that they're going to come back with the Antichrist. That is like, whoa, right? And if you're not a biblical person, still, it's basically like spitting on somebody, right? Like it's a big deal. It's negative, but as negative as it gets. So we all know that, that's not what happened. However, by him saying this stuff, it went viral online. I mean, it had, I think, like 3 million views or something. I mean, I got 66 followers, like, as of right this second is filming this. So I'm like, this fool got 3 million views? Like, okay, which, I mean, I tuned in for crazy too. So, I mean, whatever. But, the social media, it just created a sensation around him. So then that started driving in more people, right? Because we all know that there was a lot of sensationalism around the election, and people were very divided. You were either pro this or pro this, and there was no in between. You couldn't talk about it with anybody. So all those that were loving what he was saying, they flocked. They flocked from miles around. They started moving to Warrior. There were real estate agents that are like, these people are wanting to move here. We ain't even got enough houses for them, because it's a small town. They're showing up. They're lined up down the parking lot, like the 100 spaces. Forget that mess. They are everywhere. They're wanting to hear what Robin's got to say. Like, they are lit. Like, he looks like Billy Ray Cyrus to me. Like, if y'all remember Billy Ray, not just from Miley Cyrus, guys. Like, he actually had a hit song. Like, you know it. But he does. He reminds me of that. And if it was a church of Achy Breaky Heart, you might could persuade me to go. Okay? You might could. I don't know. It's up there with the cult of Cody Rhodes. Like, I might would go. But anyway, people are like, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, and they're buying into every single thing. So fast forward 2 months later, like I was talking about on January the 6th, and Robbie D is slapping in the middle of Constitution Avenue doing a sermon. Like, he's not sermon, but he's videoing himself, and he's marching towards the Capitol with some of these people. Now, as I understand it, he didn't actually go to the Capitol. He wasn't one that, jumped the security lines and stormed in or anything like that. So definitely not accusing him of illegal activity there, okay? Be very clear. But he was there. So I'm going to clip in some of the things that were said. So let me drop those in really quick for you.
Standing here. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but we're standing here and people are gathering in by masses. This is the Red Sea. This is where it's gathering. And we're standing here as prophets of God, holding out our rod over the Red Sea. You can see the Washington Monument behind me. And we're holding it out over the Red Sea until it parts. Because we will cross. We have a promise of God that we will cross. That's why we're standing here today, so we can hold our rods out over this sea in Washington, D.C. to see this thing part. They're expecting 3 million people to show up today. Mark pointed out that's exactly what was there at the Red Sea that day. It was 3 million Israelis. So here we are today, and we'll be back with more here in just a little while. President Trump is supposed to come and speak, and we're going to be praying in the Spirit. And we'll have more to report shortly. God bless you. All right, we're standing here in front of the Capitol building, and I'm with Pastor James Horn from Kentucky. And the Lord had us meet up right down here because I wanted to bring a staff up here, and I couldn't bring it. And here, wherever you go, you see this Red Sea. It's a Red Sea everywhere, and it's laid out hundreds of thousands of people, I guess, maybe even millions, I don't know. But when I met the pastor, he was carrying this staff, and so I asked him to do this video with me. And so, all of you that are watching, I want you to stretch your hands this way, and we're going to stretch this staff toward the Capitol, and we're going to part that sea. It's going to be symbolic of Moses. First of all, we're going to hold this.
That was all shut down. Oh yeah.
Even over this water. Righteousness will prevail here today. And I give you praise and honor. We command every foul spirit inside that building. You will not win today. This dominion is given to God's people. We hold it up now. In Jesus' mighty name. Hallelujah to the Lamb of God.
So I don't know about y'all, but the whole trying to part the sea of people with the butterfly clip in the back of the hair was getting me all day, every day. I'm like, what is happening? But he was very adamant once this was over that regardless of what happened that day, Trump was still our president. So he is still currently is still the president. And I believe he actually said that he could I don't know if he said he could or he wanted him to just go in and sit down at the desk and just take back what was rightfully his. And I mean, I ain't gonna lie a little bit. I'm not political, but I am not gonna lie. Let's see that happen. Because I bet that would be a show. Like he's just gonna walk in, elbow Joe out the way and be like, excuse me, sir, excuse me, baby, excuse me. And just plop down. And what's gonna happen? I want the play-by-play. Is he going to come across the desk with the elbow? I don't know what's going to happen. But we all know this to not be true, right? We saw the election. And I say not be true. If you are of this camp, if you truly believe this in your heart, I'm not here to insult you in any way. However, I'm just going to state what the news reported. How about that? The news reported that Joe Biden won the election. Donald Trump got on the plane and left, right? Left the White House. So that is what we know today to be true. So it hasn't stopped Robbie D from still pushing this agenda. Well, once he started buying up the land in Warrior, these people, are getting concerned. They're raising not raising awareness, but they're raising concerns to the local government in Warrior. They're having issues with what all this land's being bought up for. It started with their house, which is about a $400,000 home, which is a beautiful home. It's actually featured on the City of Warrior website. So I don't know if it's a historic home. It looks to be one. It's beautiful, but my actual home is built in that same type of style, but it was built in the 1990s. So it's it could be newer. I don't know. I didn't do a whole lot of research on their house. I got way too fascinated with the sermons. But they started there. And then they started buying up a large storefront. They bought up a law firm for I think it was $230,000. They bought up the storefronts. They bought up all kinds of things. So basically, if it becomes available, they start to buy it. And this included several acres of land that was sold to them by the Jefferson County School Board. So where is all this money coming from, right? Well, of course, if there's this money going out, then the government is always going to have a question about how's it coming in, right? They don't care if you're a church or not. They want to know where it's coming from. So they asked to see tax records. They wanted to see all the tax records from 2019 to 2021, I believe. And they said no. That violated their First Amendment right. And then they're like, okay, well, no, it doesn't. We're going to sue you for that. And so I believe the IRS came, the FBI showed up. They gave him about 18,000 pages of documentation, but it was heavily redacted. And the government now, the state of Alabama, has asked for the unredacted copies. And they say, no, that violates our First Amendment rights as a church because we need to protect our donor information. And I see both sides of that. You should be able to protect your donor information. Totally got it. But if you're not filing any type of tax returns, like, it does look like you're cooking books somewhere, right? So totally get it. But Robbie, D, the man, he goes on to further this political just storm of stuff, and he accuses them of only doing this to further a political agenda. He says that the reason that they're doing this is because of his beliefs and what he knows to be true, which is that Donald Trump is still president and all that type of stuff. And that the FBI agent that showed up actually went so far as to ask him if he had ever prayed with Donald Trump or if he'd ever been to Donald Trump's home. I think it's pronounced Malargo, but I'm not rich enough to name a house. Never probably will be. So I don't know how to pronounce fancy people's houses. So whatever, his house. So, he's saying that this is all driven just because of, these things. And, who knows? We obviously weren't there to hear the conversation, to hear the story. So we'll never know the truth, but that's what he claims. Now, the biggest question, too, was what are they going to do with all this land? Well, most recently, they brought forth a plan to the city for rezoning. They wanted to rezone some of the school land that was given to them by sold to them by the Jefferson County School Board. They wanted to rezone it to agricultural. And what they were going to do with this was this place called The Farm. Now, if that don't freak you out a little bit when we're talking about a cult, I don't know what will, or a potential cult. Alleged cult. Alleged. Don't come for me. The Farm. So they wanted to rezone it to agricultural because they said they're going to have greenhouses on there and that it's going to be it'll be self-sustaining, but then it would also offer affordable food to the community. It was also going to have a fishing lake, a pavilion for, I think, event venue type thing. So they're pitching this whole thing hard, right? But to me, if you look at the schematic and how large it is, it looks like a compound to me. And then you're talking about putting in greenhouses. You're talking about doing all this stuff that makes it where they can just kind of sit around and do their thing. I don't know. I don't know. Sounds like this could be a compound. So we'll see. The city shot it down. They said, absolutely not. We're not going to rezone it. There were a lot of people against it. They didn't want that. They didn't want that, I guess, backing up next to where their residential areas were. So as of right now, the farm is on hold. So we shall see as we go a little bit further. So one thing I guess that got me a little bit in this whole scenario was that Scott Prater, who is the chief of police right now for Warrior, he's a former, I think, deputy chief for Birmingham. He has gone on record saying that with AL.com, so you can look them up. They're the local news source for Birmingham, the Birmingham metro area, Huntsville, all sorts of places. Great publication. He's gone on record saying that the church is buying up all these properties and these other buildings because they have a plan to renovate them, and they're going to revitalize downtown, and they're going to offer low rent options for boutique business owners. So, basically we shouldn't be worried. You're going to see a rent sign going up soon. Yeah. Well, here's what bothers me about that whole situation. So, we've talked about the potential tax evasion type thing that they're being investigated for. And it's been ongoing for about a year now. What worries me, or what I find to be odd, is that the AL.com reporter decided to go and ask the church some questions. They wanted to get their side of the story, which should be valid, right? We want to hear what you have to say. You're not doing these things. We want to know. Tell us your side of the story. That's all we ask. So a reporter and a videographer, they get in the car, they hop in, they go, they're like, we're going to go talk to the church, right? They pull in the parking lot, and they are met with a security guard. And the security guard says, no, you're not coming in here. And I'm going to need you to put your little camera back, and I'm going to need you to go. Well, if you ain't got nothing to hide, why will you not talk to a third party? Like, AL.com is not for the church or against the church. They're just trying to tell a story. At the time, they probably are for or against them after the next thing I'm about to tell you. So they get in the car, they leave. This security guard follows them all around town. Does this sound like Scientology to you at all? Do you feel a little Scientologific right now? Because I do. Follows them all around town, and they pull over finally in a restaurant parking lot. They are braver than I am. They pull over in a restaurant parking lot, and the videographer gets out, turns that camera on because he ain't about to play with this. And they confront this security guard about following them, and tell them that they're getting it all on video and they're going to the police. And the security guard, I guess, gets in his car and leaves. It doesn't sound like there was necessarily like a confrontation, altercation right then. They go to the Warrior Police Department and they report this. They're like, the dude's following us. We're just trying to get a story here. We want to file a report. So they take down the report. And right now, as of reporting on this, AL.com asked for a status on their report. And they don't have one. And every Sunday, there are Warrior Police that work the church services there. Which that's not uncommon. There, I went to a larger church for a while, and the city of Huntsville police would report to duty to help direct traffic and things like that. But I'm like, nah, I don't feel good about that. Do y'all? I don't feel good about that situation. I'm not accusing anybody of nothing. However, I do know if you've listened to Leah Remini enough, you know that she has made a lot of claims about how some of the LA Police Department were very close to Scientology based on donorship. Not saying it's the same. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusion there. That's what I'm going to do. So, here we are. We can't get anything done about this police report. We can't do anything. We can't get true answers. And that's all to me we're asking for at this point. Like, just tell your side, which as of right now, we haven't heard anything other than that they are being persecuted for being Donald Trumpers. I don't know another way to put that. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody that is pro-Trump or pro-Biden or pro whoever else is going to run. I just don't know what else to call you at that point. But yeah, so it just really is perplexing why they won't talk about anything. And we can trace some of the streams of the money for ourselves. So obviously, with a mega church like this, or what I would assume is, I'm going to assume mega church, and here's why. It's not necessarily just because of the congregants that meet there on Sunday, even though it does sound like they're busting at the seams a lot of Sundays. Think about the online presence. When you start streaming your services online, you get more of a reach, right? You either get people from out of state, you get people who might not be comfortable coming in public. You get all kinds of things. So they may be receiving donations and tithes through them. There are also, of course, always people, Dog the Bounty Hunter may be one, for all I know, celebrities sometimes that will donate. So maybe he's one. I don't know. I would assume they paid him to be there, but who knows? If he wants to come be on this channel, if he's just donating his time, you can come hang out with me in my little corner over here. That's fine. I'll even change the color of the lights to something new. I'll let you pick. But the old Robins, they do have one other major stream of income. And this one is called the Top Bible College that they founded. So it's 30 live stream classes that you can buy for almost $1,000. It's $960. So I don't have a number of how many people have signed up for this, but I would assume it's quite a few. It sounds a little scammy to me, but who am I to judge, right? But still, that's a lot of revenue that could be coming in as well. It still doesn't sound like to me it would be in the tune of $6 million worth of property. And that's separate, right? Like that's your property that you've purchased. What about all these, you're just keeping the lights on and the doors open and things like that. You're still having to do that, right? And most of the staff that's there, they are related to. So it is them and their adult children that are the main staff of the church, the main leadership team. And then they have other volunteers as well. So when you tune in, you're going to see him and her and then their kids. So that's a little like nepotistic, I guess, a little bit, but whatever. like I said, if you log on and you watch a service, I skipped around, so you got to forgive me because my brain is fried from watching this. And he skips around like a jackrabbit, like all over the place. But you start the service with a 1 hour music interlude, which is fine. Like I said, people worship through music, totally fine. Then you move into a 1 hour talk. I guess it's not the actual sermon, but it's a talk on tithing. Now, I don't know if you guys are biblical followers, if you are church people, if you even give a rip, but I can speak from personal experience in churches that I have been to. If you did an hour sermon on tithing, people probably leave. They'd be like, oh Lord, no, I can't be talking about that, like you're getting in my pocketbook. 1 hour that they do this. So, needless to say, by the second and third sermon, I fast forwarded through that because I was like, I ain't giving y'all my money. No, stand back, Jim and Tammy Faye. I ain't giving you my money. But anyway, then you move into the sermon. And the sermons were something. Like, you're going to have to go watch this for yourself because, I'm not hating on anybody who has different ideals or beliefs that I do. However, when they are manipulative, hurtful, outlandish, things like that, it is cause for concern because they got people that are all up in there and they're believing it, right? They're believing it. They're in, they're sold. And it was things like that Moses, when he built the ark, did so through electro sound waves? Through sound waves anyway. And that I guess if you focus hard enough, you can make things levitate. Which does explain how the pyramids got there, right? I guess it wasn't the 10,000 Hebrews after all. It was just one dude focused real hard and all those bricks right on up there. I guess he got tired as he went up, and that's why it's a pyramid. No, nobody, just me? Okay. But, I mean, stuff like that to me is just kind of like, all right, this is not Bewitched. This is not Hocus Pocus. Like, we know, outside of Chris Angel, who he's also been compared to looking like, and Billy the Exterminator. Like, I can't. You can't make things levitate, right? But there's people that are there and they're like, absolutely, yes, he could. And there are things that are in biblical teachings that seem very outside the norm to believe, right? There's, if you're a Christian, like Jesus rising from the dead, things like that are difficult to wrap your mind around because it's not something that we can do. If I go tomorrow, I'm not going to jump up out, the casket the next day and I want to be cremated, so I'm not going to glue myself back together and be like, oh, just kidding, I'm here. So there are things that are hard to believe, but, he's rewriting all the history that Christians would believe in, and that to me I got issue with, right? I don't care what faith you are, you can be whatever you want to be, but when somebody comes in and they try to rewrite the entire way that it was delivered, and these are ancient old texts, that makes you scratch your head a little bit, right? It really does. I apologize if you can hear my dog in the background. Apparently, our Walmart delivery is now here, and she is clearly thinks they're here to kill us all. So, stand by one moment. All right, so sorry about that. So, some other things that the Bullocks have prophesied about and have taught about are things such as they claim that they accurately prophesied about the visions of the coronavirus, Hunter Biden's laptop, earthquakes in Turkey, the former New York governor's downfall, all these things, that have been in the news. And I didn't go back in the sermons far enough to see if they said it beforehand or if it was one of those, like, it happened and you were like, I knew it was going to happen. So I'm not 100% sure, but, they teach their own version of the Bible. And they teach their own personal values. There's a lot of pro-America, which is great. If you live in America, that's good. But it's very pro-Trump America. It's very anti of the LGBTQ plus community. Very, very, just don't even talk about that because they're against that completely. They have a lot of anti-abortion type ideals, and that was even another thing that they actually stated as to why they wanted to buy up so much property, was because they wanted to make sure no abortion clinics could come into Warrior. I'm not sure that was a big deal, big issue. I mean, if you're that close to Birmingham, there's probably a facility there, and there wouldn't be one in Warrior, but I don't know. Maybe as you're on those big cities, I know like here we would be probably considered a suburb of Huntsville, Alabama. And there's not a facility like that here, but however, there at least used to be one in Huntsville. I don't know if it's still there, but typically you ain't got to go too far. But they want it out of Warrior, so they're gonna keep it out of there. And like I said, their services they're very long. They're 3 hours in duration plus. They meet a couple times a week, and then they also have a Tuesday broadcast called the 11th Hour, where Robbie D, he doesn't go by Robbie D, but Robin D, the man, shares his prophecies and things like that on a live broadcast. So they end every single service with the same message, and it says that God is absolutely good, which is a good message to end on if you're a faith believer, obviously. But at the same time, when they say that and they preach kindness and goodness, there have been some former members that have come out as of recently and given, a lot of interviews with AL.com and said that, that's not, they may say that, but that's not how they're behaving. And this is what I think pulls us into that cult type behavior, right? So there was one former member, her name was Kate Cagle, and she said, that basically that these people, they are like, they're telling you if you don't pay your tithes, if you don't, you got to give to the church and then just pray to get by the next week, basically, that you're not living by your teachings and you are going to face God's wrath. So, that's a little different than the slogan that we're flashing on the back of the screen while we're doing our live broadcast, right? It's quite different. She also says that she attended the church from 2010 to 2019 with her parents, because she was a kid. And she said that Robin, the man, actually got her up on stage and tried to perform an exorcism on her because he was claiming that there was a demon inside of her and trying to cast the demon out before the demon sent her to hell. I can't imagine how terrified this child was, and probably is sitting there wondering, like, what the heck what have I done? What did I don't know if she was, I don't know how old she was. Let's say she's 10. I'm just going to say she's 20 now. I'm just going to split the difference. What did a 10-year-old do that calls for them to be called up like that in front of the church and terrified, humiliated, all these things? But, there they were. She goes on to say that she wasn't allowed to celebrate Halloween in any way. She couldn't hunt Easter eggs. She couldn't watch TV. She couldn't watch movies. The only music she could listen to was Christian music. So just that very shut off from the outside world, right? Like, you are compartmentalized and only what we want you to believe. You're only going to hear what we want you to hear, and there should be no outside influence, no free thinking, no anything like that. So, and she said that Robin didn't have that kind, nice guy persona. He was one. He screamed, he yelled, he berated, he talked to people, he talked down to people. That's a little different than that persona that we keep seeing on TV, right? Like, you don't see that. You see this, like, looks like a wannabe rock star that just rolled in the Undertaker's duster and wants to play you a little ditty on the guitar. So it's very different. And you got Smiley Robin, the lady over here, who, is telling stories about her dogs and all kinds of mess when she's doing a sermon. And it's nothing like what the true blue congregants have told as they start to, ease their way out of this. So, and that's funny, right? And that, she reminds me so much of Deanne. I cannot remember her last name, but the LuLaRoe lady, oh my goodness, she reminds me so much of her. Y'all go watch one of these sermons and then go look at that. I think it was it Amazon Prime, the documentary that they did on LuLaRoe. Go compare and just tell me that you don't see it. I can't unsee it now. So, but anyway, so they've gone on to further say that they have preached, the folks that have left the congregation have said that they've preached in the church that if you voted for anybody but Donald Trump, it was a sin. You have to recognize him as your president because he's still there. Just these kind of outlandish things that I've heard other people say as well, other religious radicals. Um, I don't know why there's been such a latch of religion onto the president. Period. Not that I'm not saying a president can't be a man of faith and all. I'm not saying that. It's just very sure. I've never seen this type of swing, of people that are just like, well, if you're a Christian, you're for him, and if you are not for him, then you are bound to hell. Like I said that in my best Southern preacher voice, didn't I? But it's really weird, and I've seen this. It's a movement out of a lot of people, and there's a lot of allegations of all these groups being cultish. There's one that I'm thinking about in particular, and we can do a deep dive on it if you want to, but I think it's called Women for Trump or Women with Trump or something like that. And the leader of the group is a alleged cult member. She has faced a lot of abuse allegations and things like that for folks that she had in her little inner circle. Very reminiscent, very similar of Jody Hildebrand, who's in trouble with Ruby Frank right now, of basically just beating the dog mess out of some kids to, I beat the devil out of them or whatever she was trying to do. So it's just it's that same it's the same story wrapped up in a different package, and that's what I feel like we're dealing here with Robin and Robin. Just to kind of further the political police thing, Bob. Chief Prater did go on record with AL.com and said that he is not in fear of the church. He fears more of what could happen to the church. He has actually said that he is called the FBI and he is running drills with his officers in fear of active shooter situations on Sunday morning. So to me, then, this is a volatile situation. Something's not right. I think his version of it, though, he means someone attacking the church. I question more if it's going to be somebody that just gets enough of this indoctrination and this hate speech and things like that, and they finally just snap. I hope not. But, never fear, because Robin Bullock, the man, is not afraid of his critics. He is not afraid. He is not worried. And in one recent service, let me quote you the song that he sang to all of the critics out there. Witches, 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 back your ass up. Witches, your time is almost up. I don't know about you, but I just went straight juvenile there. Like, I can't help it. I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to make fun of this. I'm not, but I have to make a little bit light here because this is scary. This is scary that you've got somebody who has this huge following like this that clearly has a tendency to be homophobic, to be, anti-establishment, I guess. And I don't have a problem with people being like saying, big government might be scary and all this type of stuff. No issue there. I mean, homophobic, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Be a better person. But push the boundaries where politics are concerned sometimes. I think that's a good thing. That's how we inflict change on things that need to be changed. Otherwise, there's no telling where we would still be. I probably wouldn't be on the internet because I still wouldn't be able to vote. So, push for some things. But just saying that you want some other person to just go in and sit down at the president's desk and just elbow him out the way, basically, like I don't think we can just act that way, right? Like there's, if you strongly believe in your candidate, then the right thing to do is to help promote them for the next election and go out and vote. That's what we're supposed to do. That's the right thing to do. Or at least that's what I would think would be okay. I'm not a real confrontational person like that, though. So, I'm not going to go in the White House and just open the door and flip over a chair and sit down in it. So that's not what I'm going to do. But, if like I said, that's your calling. But it is scary to think that on the surface, there's a lot of propaganda to pull certain people in, and they're hinging on maybe the support of a political candidate to pull these people in. And then when you hear Kate's story of how dark it is on the other side, and how, they don't let the kids watch anything outside. They don't do anything. We hear this all the time. You hear this with like FLDS. You hear this with, the Jim Jones cult. You hear this with so many other people that they only surround themselves with this bubble. You're only in the bubble. And then you hear the farm being wanting to be built. And that to me starts to be like, my heart starts to beat a little quicker, right? Because it sounds like this very well could be the start of a cult if it's not already there. So who knows? It's not over, because I can guarantee you they ain't gonna just go down and say, oh well, they said no, so we're with the rezoning, so darn. I don't think it's gonna end there by any means. So I would love to know what you guys think. Probably want to know my opinion. Do I think it's a cult? Stand by. Let's ask somebody what the definition of a cult is so we can be accurate here. Alexa, what's the definition of a cult?
As a noun, cult can have a few meanings. 1. A particular system of religious worship, especially with reference to its rites and ceremonies. 2. An instance of great veneration of a person, ideal, or thing, especially as manifested by a body of admirers. 3. The object of such devotion. 4. A group or sect bound together by veneration of the same thing, person, ideal, etc.
I don't know, y'all. What do you think? Sounds like it might be kind of black and white to me, but who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. City's got the house on a website and everything else. I don't care if it's a historic home or not. If people were calling this thing a cult and all that, I'd be ripping that puppy down. Unless there's a reason why we wouldn't want to. I'm just going to let you guys draw your own conclusions. You've seen some of the footage. I encourage you to go out to their website and take a look at it. See what you think for yourself. They've got a YouTube channel. You can check it out while you're here. But yeah, that was an interesting one. It's not that far from me, so maybe I should go check it out, right? Nah, I'm probably not gonna go to the church. I might drive through Royer real quick with the windows rolled up though, just so I can see like where they might be. But in all seriousness though, go do your own research. Be careful out there. Be careful what you listen to and careful what you pay attention to, because I do not believe whatsoever that people who join up with cults are anything more than vulnerable individuals looking for a place to belong. In fact, one of their leaders referenced that their church was inclusive of all people, tattoos, rock stars, former alcoholics, all these type of things, because they went because there was nowhere else for them to fit in, and they found a place for the misfits. And I think that's how easy people can get sucked in. We all want somewhere to belong. We all want something to, really just be a part of and be a bigger part of something. I think we like that sense of family, that sense of togetherness, that sense of belonging. And it can be a lot easier than I think we think to get into something like that. So, be careful out there. If something doesn't feel right, if somebody's telling you something that you don't think is right, and they're jumping all over the place telling you that people are making stuff levitate, they're comparing Jesus to Jello, that happened. They're saying doctrine that isn't right to manipulate you and move you around the way they want to, like chess pieces. Get out. Don't stay. Call your dad. Do whatever you need to do, but get out of that situation, because it's not going to turn out well in any sense of imagination. So that is it. I cannot wait to see the comments on this one, because I bet it's going to be lit up. And if you go to this church and you are watching this video, and none of this stuff that has been reported by AL.com, and I'm like pointing to my notebook right here. I took all the notes from AL.com and several sources. I did go watch sermons. I did go to the website. If there is some specific doctrine that you can point me to that I don't have to pay for, I will go read it, and you can educate me on why this doesn't need to be under the scrutiny that it is. I will absolutely go and take a look at it. But I do think that right now, probably the reason that they are under such scrutiny for their money is because they can't scrutinize them for what they preach, because there is freedom of religion in this country, and as long as they aren't hurting anyone physically, which I have not heard yet. We haven't heard that they've been beating anybody or doing anything Jody Hildebrandish, Ruby Frankish, all that stuff, starving nobody. There's not a whole lot of intervention that they can do, but it does sound like that they are looking at him for something. And as we all know, Al Capone got in trouble for tax evasion, not anything else. So, just saying. But until then, guys, rewinding back, if you can show me that stuff, I will absolutely go read it. Maybe I will change my mind. I'm open as always, but until then, I can't wait to hear you guys' opinion. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this one. It was a long one, but I mean, when Billy Ray Cyrus shows up to do a sermon, by God, we give him the time, don't we? So, anyways, guys, until next time, please stay safe. Don't go to a cult service, please. And stay sweet out there, my friends. And I will see you for the next one. Bye.